everybody. It's Candice with Grow Local again. And what a great couple of days I've had. For starters, I got to go to the 8th Avenue School Garden and have a tour, and it was really, really neat. I'm hoping that someday we're going to get to go there and actually give you guys a tour of it too, because it's really quite interesting what the students are doing. The only thing I'm going to touch on today, because I don't want to give away their garden, is they actually had a protein bed, and it was so neat to see. They were growing millet, which is just a really lovely seed that can be used for cereal or for birds. They had millet, or I just said that. They had buckwheat. And buckwheat, I found, I had never grown it before, but they did, and it looks like it grows to be about maybe 3 feet tall, 2-3 feet tall. And it had clusters of white flowers, which turned into these lovely seeds, which apparently you can hull, which is a pain in the patootie, but it's still viable. You can use it as cereal, you can grind it into flour. So it's a very good protein, vegetable protein, or plant protein rather. One of the other things you could do with buckwheat if you weren't into something like that is it's really good. You sow it in the spring, and when it gets, before it flowers, and about 2 weeks before you want to plant, you just chop it down, dig it under, and it helps give you good tilth and nutrition to your soil. So I thought that was kind of cool. And surprise of all surprises for me, they're growing chickpeas. Little itty bitty chickpeas. They were laughing, they said they probably had enough to maybe make half a cup of hummus, but that's what they were gonna do. And they were gonna grow them again next year. But I thought, hey, that's something fun to do. So like I said, that was the 8th Avenue School Garden. They've just started doing their thing. They really made some good progress, and they've got some really interesting ideas on what they're going to do in the future. So like I said, I'm really hoping that we can get out there and do a tour with you guys. Next up on the agenda, it was Family Farm Week. And there were a bunch of tours and stuff, and a few questions came up. So today, herbs. If you want to harvest your herbs, get out there and snip them. This is referred to, this size is referred to as a sprig. When you're drying them, just use them this size. And I have found the easiest way to do it is just bundle them together and use a rubber band to hold them together, because as a lot of these stalks dry, they tighten up, and whatever you're using, if you're just using string, it gets looser, and a lot of times these things just fall out on you. Once they're dry, you can just strip them off the stems just like this, which is another option if you want. You can just strip them off the stems, put them in your oven and let them air dry like this. And when they're done, put them in a jar. And if you're not absolutely positive, you guys, if it is completely dry, you know all those little silica packages that you get in your shoes and you get in your vitamins to keep the moisture out? Save them. Plunk them in your herb jar. And then you don't have to worry about, if something was a little bit damp, you don't have to worry about your herbs going moldy. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is with butter. You can take butter. This is a little bit soft because it is warm outside. But you take your butter and you can use any of your herbs. This one has a lot of parsley and a lot of rosemary in it. And all I did was take my parsley and chop it up. Take the rosemary, slide your finger down the stem. I've got all these. If I want, I can leave them whole, or I can just snip some of them up, make them smaller, or you can use a knife. This is one of those ones I'm doing in front of you guys, so I'm sure if I was using a knife, I'd probably end up in emergency or something, because I get so silly nervous about it. But you kind of do that when you think somebody's watching you, don't you? So there we go. And you mush it up, and you have a couple of options. You can, if you know that you're going to be using it in a recipe that requires X amount all the time, you can just use your big old, say it's a tablespoon. So there's your tablespoon. Put it on a piece of parchment paper in a little blob. You get a whole bunch of those. Throw them in the freezer. Let them harden up. And then stick them in a plastic bag. And then when you need your tablespoonful of parsley and rosemary, or parsley, rosemary, savory, chopped up chives. Maybe you're going to put in sage because you're going to use it in your chicken. Any combination that you want that you know you're going to use. And that's all you have to do. When you want to use it, go down to the freezer, pull out that blob, throw it in your pot and carry on. If you want to get a little different, you can put them in your put them in your ice cube tray. And this, again, if you can figure out how much it holds, then you have the amount that you want. Once these guys are all frozen in here, you just pop them out, and again, put them in a bag. Bob's your uncle, Betty's your aunt. It's all pre-portioned, it's all done. And it's all over my thumb. Okay, and another idea is with basil. A lot of you know that basil just doesn't dry well. It loses a lot of flavor. If for some reason you're one of those really lucky people that has a freeze dryer, then it's an option. But if you cut them and stuff and you just leave them, they turn black really, really soon. Or really, really fast. Now you can just take whole leaves and put them in a container and layer them up with olive oil. Or you can snip them. And let's see if I can do this. And look like a pro. And then all you're going to do is snip it into your trays and then cover it up with your olive oil. And again, here you can pre-portion your amounts. If you know you need a teaspoon of fresh basil, then put a teaspoon of fresh basil in there. You can crunch it up like crazy. Once they're done, it is warm out here. You've got your little cubes, and you can just keep them in a bag like this. This is my basil and olive oil because I really like making tomato soup in the fall. And then I have my fresh basil for it. It's already in there, and I don't need to worry about it. Okay, I was talking to you earlier about the Family Farms Day. They put out a recipe book, and it is absolutely wonderful. And I thought, I'm going to show you one recipe out of it. And I actually opted for one of the easiest recipes, and it is the grated broccoli with Parmesan. I don't know about you guys, but not all the time do you have kids that eat all their vegetables, and sometimes as soon as they see something green on their plate, they don't want to eat it. I had a beige baby. That's what we referred to as, was my little beige baby. If that food wasn't white or light brown or beige, he didn't want to eat it. He didn't want to eat it. It was pizza, it was potatoes, it'd be French fries, he'd do eggs, he'd do cheese, but as soon as it had any color, off the plate. So, found this recipe, and it is, like I said, grated broccoli with Parmesan. And it's super easy, you guys. All you do is you take the stalks off of your broccoli. There it is. You're going to pare it down. You know all that hard, pithy stuff on the outside that's really stringy? You want to take it off. See, this is what I mean about cooking in front of people. I can't even get the wrapper off the broccoli. So you take this and you just peel all that pithy stuff, the hard, off the broccoli. And then you're just going to grate it. If you got a food processor, use the food processor. It's way easier. This recipe calls for 6 cups of broccoli. It's a recipe, you guys. It's not a law. Use what amount you want. This is just a jumping off point. And you just grate your broccoli up. And then you are going to put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of a fry pan. And you're going to heat it up. And then you're going to take your broccoli and you're going to throw it in the pan. And as soon as it starts to, you toss it up so it's all covered in the oil. And then you turn it down and you put a lid on it, and you're going to cover it on a low, you're going to cook it on a low temperature for about 10-15 minutes. Depends on how you like your vegetables. If you like them a little bit crunchy still, or if you like them really soft, entirely up to you. And then when it's to the stage that you like, you're going to take a bunch of Parmesan, sprinkle it on, and you're going to let it melt in, and then you're going to put on red pepper flakes. So we'll see what it looks like. Probably not the most attractive, but you sprinkle on your hot pepper flakes, your red pepper flakes, and you can mix it up. And oh my goodness, they scarf it down. It's the funniest thing. But again, it's a recipe. It's not written in stone. If you guys don't like hot peppers, throw in some red peppers. Grate up some carrots. Do whatever you want, but it's just a different way of using parts of the vegetable that you might not have used before, and it looks different, and it might just be a way of getting them to try something new. It's not even new. It's the same old, same old. You're just putting it in a different presentation, and you might fool them, and they might actually end up liking broccoli. But these guys have some really, really awesome recipes. They have butterscotch squash soup, fava bean hummus. You've got rhubarb barbecue sauce. Like, oh, I am so gonna try that one. Garlic scape pesto, roasted patty pan squash. And I have no idea how to say this, so I'm gonna go hakurei, turnips. But it looks like it's just a really, really easy recipe. Chimichurri sauce, French onion soup, steamed vegetables, and man, they've got a lot of vegetables in there, and they've got some tasty ones too. Baked cod with lemon and garlic, nettle pesto, and I know a lot of you guys are going to go, nettle, like stinging nettles? Oh my goodness, you guys, it's so full of nutrition, and as soon as you blanch those, all the stingers are gone. It's one of the healthiest things you can get in your garden. They've got onion jam, chilled melon soup. Worth picking up the recipe book. If you missed it this year, they might have it online. I don't know. Maybe because I've opened my big mouth and said this, they'll put it online. Or next year, go out and grab it. There's usually something really, really good in there. And like I said, when you're gardening, when you're cooking with your vegetables and stuff, if you find a recipe that sounds intriguing, try it, and try it the way the recipe said, because typically people have, somebody, some poor soul, has put their heart and soul into this thing and made it so that it's going to be the best thing you've ever tasted. But you know, people aren't all the same, so do it the way that they said it was supposed to be. It could be your dream dish, or you might decide that, nope, I need a little more of this, I need a little less of that, or I don't like using Parmesan, I want to use cheddar, or ooh, I wonder what that would be like with the habanero cheese in there instead. Use what you've got. You don't have to stick to the rules, but get out in that garden, find your veggies, put them to work. It's Candice with Grow Local again, and we are now in September, and a lot of you will find that your gardens are still really, really producing, and some of you will find that they're not doing so hot at all. I've talked to people that had just abundant strawberry crops this year, and they've got tomatoes coming out the wazoo. And there's other people, I didn't get that much for tomatoes, you guys, and I started getting strawberries last week. Like, to me, just absolutely insane. But regardless, this is the time of year when you figure everything's winding down, and I am remiss, I should have started this earlier, but hey, if you can't get it done this year, you'll know better for next year. You can still plant some stuff. There's stuff called corn mache, and you can get winter hardy lettuces, and arugula still grows really well. And you're going to start finding holes in your bed where you've taken out your onions, or your early potatoes are gone. My peas are all gone, so that space is open. I do have a space behind me that I was kind of keeping for it to bolt. I've got lettuce that's going to bolt. I've got my broccoli bolting because I wanted to save some seeds and I wanted to show you. But I tell you guys, this year everything's late. It's just absolutely crazy. So I might get to it this year, I might not. But regardless, I have taken some lettuce seeds and I have planted them in this empty space here. And if you can, go down to the garden centers or go down to the farmer's market and see if anybody's got seedlings. Because if you can find purple sprouting broccoli, or you can get cauliflower, that sort of thing, they're winter vegs that you can actually grow now. Purple sprouting broccoli, that will get to be about a teenager size is what they call it, by the time November rolls around. And that's all you need for it to do. You're not going to get anything off of it this year. Next year, it's going to start growing really early in the spring. So there's 3 different kinds of early broccoli that you can get, but the purple sprouting I find usually starts producing in about March. Might be as early as the end of February. You might have to wait till the beginning of April. But either way, you're popping off these spears of broccoli and cooking them up before most people have even got their spring gardens planted. So it's absolutely brilliant. I've only got 2 of them. I couldn't find any in town, so I lucked out and went to a garden center that's a little farther away. That's all I'm going to say, because a lot of them are just starting to get the stuff in, and they might actually have some in town now. So do take a look. I got broccolini and I got the purple sprouting broccoli. I also got some collards, which is like Swiss chard, and I thought, I've never had them before. They say it tastes like a cross between kale and cabbage. So what the hey, I can stir fry it. I can just steam it up. I'm willing to try something new, so that's what I'm going to go for. And I know at Guy's, when we were at his place last time, I said, ew to parsnips, and everybody kind of looked at me like I was odd. So you know what, that might have been a childhood thing. Next year, I'll try some parsnips and see if they taste better than what I thought. But the infamous West Coast Seeds does have a small book out, and it will show you, it's got the chart in the front, and it will show you all the things that you can still be planting. We're in September now, so it is arugula. You might get away with beets if you cover them. And there's chicory, wow, corn salad or maiche. That's one, you guys, that is, it's small, it's really slow growing. You can sprinkle it underneath your tomato plants, underneath your pumpkin squashes, your kales, anything that's going to be done at the end of October. And when your squash and your tomatoes are done, just cut them off at the top of the soil so you're not disturbing the ground, and that stuff will start to grow. It won't start sprouting until the ground gets cool. It's really, and it's awesome in salads. Anyway, back to, we could still do mesclun and mustards. You can do your pak choi, your radishes, turnips. You could still do turnips. And apparently, not only is it getting to be time to do your garlic, which we typically do late September or October, but broad beans. I've got a neighbor and she grows broad beans. You plant those in October and they will grow slowly during the winter, and then in the spring you're going to have these beans before the black aphids. That's a problem with a lot of the bean crops, but you're going to have those beans before they even show up. Not only that, they're a legume, so they're fixing nitrogen in the soil for the crops after. You can just chop that stuff off after you've picked the beans, put it in the garden, you've got tilth, and you've got the nitrogen added to the soil. So it's just kind of a win-win. Food and additives for your garden. Anyway, it is a lovely little chart. Shows you when to plant and wavy lines that show you the months that you can harvest all this stuff. Plus, they go through the book and they just show you the winter hardy vegetables that you can grow, the things that are going to do the best. And that's another reason why I like getting my seedlings at this time of year from the local growers, from the farmers market, because those guys, they know what grows out here and they know what is going to work. You go to the big box stores or the large garden centers and they usually get all their stuff trucked in from someplace else. Might work fine in Penticton and not do so hot here. So you just don't really know, which is, like I said, it's just another plug for the local gardeners. They've already been doing it, and if you can find it, yes. So anyway, it's a good little book to pick up if any of the garden centers still have them. And if not, just go online. You can find all that information there. And what else can I talk about? I have my dragon tongue beans over here, and I've had my fill. So whatever is growing now, I am letting dry. And I pulled some off, or I pulled one off to show you. So this is what it looks like. They're not very attractive anymore. And you can tell they're ready because you can hear them rattling in the pods. And when you open it up, you will have these lovely speckled beans. And if I want, I can cook them up and use them in a soup, but these are the ones that I'm going to save so that I've got something to grow next year. I also have on this side, these are my little bush beans, the long stringless green beans. I actually have 2 beds of these. These ones are just about done. They're starting to get a little bit tough for me, so I've decided this bed is drying. And this is what they look like when they're dried. And when I pop it open, that's what the beans are going to look like. And again, this is what I'm saving for next year. I have another bed along here. Looks a heck of a lot healthier. Hasn't been attacked by bugs or anything. My cats haven't been walking through them. I'm getting flowers and I'm getting small little beans growing on them. So if we keep another couple of weeks of really nice weather, I'm going to have another fill of little green beans and it's going to be absolutely lovely. So, seed saving, still chomping. And the last one I was going to show you is this one. And these are the burlati beans. These ones I love as a drying bean. And I don't have very much on here this year, but that was because I really didn't know if they were going to grow or not. So I just took a chance and now I'm sitting here kicking myself in the butt going, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But that'll be next year. They're not anywhere near ready to be picked because they're not dried. But this is the tail end of last year's crop. And that's what they look like. And these guys, they're just lovely when they're cooked up. They're mild, kind of nutty, and they're super, super creamy. And that's what I like. Okay, what else? I had a lousy year with my patty pan squashes, or so I thought. Now that it's starting to cool down, all of a sudden these things have springed up. I've got blossoms coming out, and I've got patty pan coming out. I have my father here for a visit, and I fed him enough that this week he went, yeah, we can have anything you want for dinner, but I think I'm full of patty pan. So I'm going to freeze some of them. You can pick them, you guys. This is one of the green ones. They come in green, white, or yellow. But this is a really good size if you're trying to introduce them to kids because they look like little spaceships. You can just steam them. You can pop them in a frying pan with a little bit of butter. You just really need to warm them up and just get them a little more tender. It doesn't take but maybe 5 to 7 minutes to cook these things up. And if you tell them they're eating a spaceship, a lot of times they'll go for it. These are the yellow ones. This is bigger. I just slice it up and away I go. Although my dad's wife, she lets them get a little bit bigger, and apparently she makes some sort of a quinoa stuffing and puts it inside and then freezes them. And she'll blanch and freeze these guys too. If I get the recipe, I'll share it. So far I haven't got it. What else can we talk about the fall garden? I have a beet in here. This is the last of my big beets. I do have some little ones growing up. They should be just fine later. But this is the last of the beets in this side. And I've left it in because they are biennial. So he's just going to stay in the ground all winter. He's going to do just fine. And then next spring when he starts to grow, he's going to be all woody and nasty tasting, but I don't care because he's going to flower, and that's how I'm going to get my beet seeds. And just keep the ball rolling. I have the little green onions over there. And they're popping up. Because I'm a category planter. I'm not in rows. And so that's why they look like that. But they'll last. And I can just come out and pick them whenever I want. And it'll be good. Oh, I was going to show you something. This is one of the pepper plants. And this is the one that was called the shishito. That's the one where you get all these peppers and 1 in every 12 is, they're supposed to be really mild, but 1 in every 12 is going to be rather pungent or spicy. So that's what they've looked like. But I had all these lovely flowers on the top, and I was just looking for a really heavy crop. Didn't work. But that's because we had those crazy hot days, and when they get hot, they sterilize the flower, and you just won't get anything from it. So if you had kind of an iffy pepper production this year, that's probably all it was, is too hot. I didn't cover anything. I've just got a few of the jalapenos, but quite honestly, I only need a few. And I guess I should show you. This is, I picked this up just to show you guys. This is what they call a 606 because you got 6 containers or 6 little packages in it. So this is what you get at a garden center. It's called 606. This one's a variety pack, and it's an Asian stir fry. And because I don't like talking to you guys with my glasses on because they get really dark, and I just think that's rude when you can't see somebody's eyes. But this is baby bok choy and pak choy. So it's 2 different kinds. And you can, if you can get these at the garden center, feel free, pull them out, put them underneath your tomatoes where they get a little bit of shade, because that's still a concern. You're gonna put these lovely little seedlings, or you get your lettuce growing, and because we have really cool mornings, but we get that blazing hot sun in the afternoon, you should grow them where they're gonna have a little bit of shade so they don't get fried. And if you don't, then just do the 2 sticks, or 2 sticks, yeah. Let's do 4 sticks, and just put a towel or something over top just to drape them during that horrible time where it's trying to cook them before you get them in the kitchen. And these, it's just like opening a hamburger bun. And you just tease them apart. And then I got 2, and you just tease them apart. And then when you go to put them in the ground, Bob's your uncle, Betty's your aunt. There, and I just planted them right where I put all my lettuce, so what the hey, it's just for show. So that's all you have to do, and they will grow up and they will be nice heads. So if you like stir fry or Asian greens, this is something you can do if you didn't get your seed started, because it is too late, you guys, for anything to grow from seed. Typically, if you want to do stuff from seed for your winter plants, you need to start them anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks before our first frost, which out here is sometime in October, anywhere from the middle to the end of October. Some say as early as the 2nd. The average seems to be around the 11th, and I've heard of it as late as the 20th. So I haven't really kept tabs on that yet. I just usually do I'm out there, my fingers are crossed, I'm gonna see what happens. So I think that's about all I've got to show you for this week. Like I said, it's not too late to get things in. If you can find Walla Walla onions, those ones that get to be absolutely massive and they're super sweet, sometimes the garden centers will get little bundles, and they just look like little bundles of green onions. And you get those. If you can find those, a lot of people have really good luck growing those things because they're one of those overwintering. There's overwintering and there's winter gardening. So overwintering is when you're planting something and you want to get it to the teenage stage, and then it doesn't do anything, and then in the spring it goes kablooey and gives you a whole bunch of vegetation like your purple sprouting broccoli. And winter gardening is when you're doing things like you've got your last crop of carrots in and you can leave them in the ground and you can harvest them all winter. If you've got row covers and you've got your greens growing in it and they're relatively protected, but you can keep picking them all winter. That's winter gardening. But overwintering is the stuff that only gets to teenage stage and doesn't do anything for you until the following